Since there's no questions, let's go ahead and get started with today. Remember last class we went through the Google Analytics platform and we went through the various dashboards that are part of that platform. And today what we're going to do is we're going to continue that, but we're going to look at something that's called multi-channel attribution modeling. And I know that that's a mouthful. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. The concept is relatively easy, and the implementation of that concept is really easy. This is really kind of the cutting edge of analytics right now is in terms of website analytics. And so when you go out on the market, you are going to seem so knowledgeable because you understand this stuff, and even more because you can implement this stuff. So if we talk about multi-channel attribution modeling, what we're really talking about is something like an assist in baseball. It's a recognition that users come to the website from a variety of different channels, from organic search, paid search, social, affiliate links, and direct. We talked about these last time. And the attribution, the default attribution that is used in the analytics platform is something called last click attribution. And what that means is that all of the conversion value for a sale is attributed to the last link that someone used to get to your website. And that doesn't reflect reality. So if you think about the ADA model that you learned in IMC, you recognize that we start with awareness, interest, and finally conversion at the bottom. You know, it's not conversion immediately. And this is especially true for products that are, for instance, industrial products where there may be multiple decision makers and the process of making a decision may be relatively lengthy. It's also a situation with regular consumers who might be searching for products because they anticipate a need in the future. Maybe they don't have the money to buy it today. Maybe some other factor is impacting their decision to buy. But whatever, they're looking now and they'll buy sometime in the future, even if that future is just later today. And so each time that visitor comes to your website, potentially they come through a different channel. So maybe they were searching for Nest thermostats, which is one of the products in the merchandise store demo account. So they look for those using search, and they find the website and go and look at the Nest computers. Maybe they decide to go and look at a couple of other competitive products, do some pricing, see if Amazon might have it a little bit cheaper, whatever the case may be. Later in the day, maybe they're on Facebook and they get served an ad for the Nest computers, which was activated by the Facebook pixel on the website, which we've already talked about in here. And so the second time they come to the website, they come in via social. And during that visit, they search around different pages of the website, and maybe they finally make the decision that they're going to purchase. So with the default attribution model, all of the value of that sale would be attributed to social, since that was the last click. Again, that doesn't reflect reality because the organic search was also important in creating awareness and potentially even interest in the product. So we really need to work hard to understand how to adequately value various channels. Now, this has a twofold practical purpose as well. The first practical purpose is for planning. You cannot adequately allocate resources to various channels without a very clear understanding of how each of those channels contributed to the ultimate sale. It would, if you only looked at last click attribution, you would apportion all of your or more of your assets to social, and you might not see the return that you expected because social was only the last click. First click is also important. So are all of the clicks in between, because we might have had multiple visits to the website before a decision was made to purchase the product. So from a decision-making standpoint and making good, sound decisions that impact marketing performance, it's important to understand the true contribution of each channel. Another practical implication of this is if you're working for a paid search agency or working in a company where you're assigned to work on paid search or social or some other channel, your compensation and your job security may depend on being able to demonstrate the return that was achieved through your marketing efforts on the particular channel that you're in charge of. So lots of good business reasons for doing multi-channel attribution modeling. Now, Google makes it easy to do this. If you go to the Conversions tab, you will see there's something here that's called multi-channel funnels, and unfortunately all that's going to give you is kind of a summary of the different channels that are used. So here we see that referrals attributed some of the conversion, as did direct and organic search. But you see here the overlap between 2 or 3 of these channels. And this is where multi-channel attribution modeling is used. All right, so if we look at the attribution tab here, you will see that there's only one option, which is the model comparison tool, and that's what we're going to use today. So here we see, based on last interaction or last click, the conversion value that is attributed to each of those channels. So what this looks at is the number of conversions that occurred when they came from a direct organic referral click. We have the conversion value in some cases, depending on how your analytics platform is set up and what information you have provided to the platform. You may have all of these columns that contain a value. So this is the actual value of that last click conversion. ROAS is return on ad spend, so it's very similar to ROI, except that it only looks at the cost of ad spending as opposed to all of the fixed and variable costs that would go into a calculation of ROI. This is important because as the marketing team working on this, you don't have any control over most of those fixed and variable costs. You only have control over the marketing spend. Except for paid search, where this value comes from your Google Ads platform, you would have to input the values for this into the system in order to calculate ROAS. And the alternative, which frankly I think is much easier, is to export this data as a CSV file, put it into Excel, and then use pivot tables as a means to correctly evaluate ROAS. It's just a lot simpler to do. And once you've set it up once, you can import new data from the Google platform, and you don't have to mess with it a whole lot because you've already got the columns and things set up. Okay, so Again, this uses last click attribution, which we've already said really doesn't give you a good, adequate, true view of the contribution of the various channels. All right, so we can compare last click attribution with one of the other, these are multi-channel attribution models that are built into the platform. These are various types of single attribution models that are part of the platform. So if we compare last click attribution with, say, position-based attribution, this gives most of the credit or equal credit to the first click, which is the awareness click, and the last click, which is the action click. But it also then apportions the credit between those middle actions within the channel that help to move the consumer down the funnel towards conversion. So I believe that each of the first and last clicks get 40% of the attribution, and the middle clicks share 20%. Now, if we compare these two models, what you see is that we get some pretty big differences. Now, it's pretty common to have a situation like this where the most important channel remains the same, regardless of which attribution model you're using, whether it's a single attribution or a multi-channel attribution model. But you see that the amount of conversion changes. So in this case, the practical interpretation using the position-based model is that organic search is much more important than it would appear to be based on last click interactions. And so the implication would be, as a manager, I would say, okay, I need to put more into my SEO so that I'm adequately accounting for the true interaction. All right, this column just gives you the percent change. And so you see the largest percent change occurs with the referral channel. Now, this looks at conversion. We can adjust this. I think that it's best to look at ROAS. And so we're looking at conversion value. So instead of looking at the number of conversions, we're looking at the value of those conversions, which from a business perspective is much more important. We need to make the cash register ring. That is our goal as marketers, is to make the cash register ring, not just today, but on into the future. Okay, so this way we can compare a couple of different models. Now, let's get rid of the last interaction because we've already said that we don't like this. Okay, and let's look at some of the custom models. Now, you can create your own custom model, and if you are working in this company for an extended period of time, maybe you do some experiments and you see which of those experiments seems to play out best by testing out different models before you determine what your ultimate model will look like. So that's one option. The other option is to import custom models from the gallery. And so these are models that have already been established and shared on the platform so that anyone is welcome to use them. Some of these are of particular importance for different situations. So here you have a brochure that went out and you want to track that. In other cases, you have a newsletter subscription that you want to check. The kind of overall best place to start, barring you have one of those unique situations, is Avinash's market motive mind-blowing model, which is another mouthful. We can import that model into the analytics platform with a few simple clicks. Okay, and so these are the default settings for the mind-blowing model. It is based on the position-based model that we just looked at. It allows you to apportion credit. So in this case, he applies 10% to the first interaction, 40% to the last, and the middle interactions then share 50. Now, I don't know that this is, from a marketing perspective, I'm not crazy about this. So I would probably change this so that the first interaction gets more of the credit, because awareness is so critical for ultimate sale of the product. And I would probably take it from these middle interactions. Now, this is called the look back window. What this does is it looks at the user's visits to the website for a certain number of days, between 0 days and 90 days. So it will give credit to a interaction that occurred within the last, in this case, 75 days. Now, this you can just slide and you can do 90 days, or you can enter the number here, whichever you want. But it doesn't allow you to look at interactions to the website that occurred more than 90 days ago. Here you can adjust the credit for impressions and the relative time between visits. Avinash says to keep this off. I tend to agree with his interpretation, so just leave that. You can also adjust credit based on the user's engagement. The page depth, of course, is the number of pages that they looked at. The other option is time on site. And again, I think page depth is a good, rational option there. You can also apply custom credit rules. And so in this case, we want to give extra credit for interactions that occur on a page that involve a click. Okay, so if the interaction involves a click on a page, obviously other than the conversion page, the call to action, we're going to apply an extra 1.4% credit to that, or 1.4 times the credit to that particular interaction. Right, so we can make any changes we want to in this model, and when we hit save, then that will be available to us. All right, and so now we can go back and we can look at our platform, and we can go to multi-channel attribution. And now we should be able to look at our custom models, our list of custom models. Okay. And then that's really all there is to multi-channel attribution modeling. You could set manually the look back window here. You can look at different channel groupings. So this is kind of the default channel grouping. We've talked about source medium before, which will give you a more nuanced view of the channels. I happen to like this because it gives you more information. So instead of knowing that a particular conversion happened through organic, you now know whether that organic search occurred on Google or whether it occurred on Bing. You also know which social channel brought you traffic. And so I think this one is a lot better way to look at it because it gives you a more nuanced view. Again, if you wanted to export this to an Excel spreadsheet, here's the option to do that. You can export it as a CSV file, bring it into Excel, do your pivot tables or whatever else you want to do, and you should have really powerful information available. So I hope that this works for you. What we're going to do now is we're going to break into our individual teams, and you're going to practice this. I'm going to go around the room, and I'm going to work with the individual groups, answering any questions that you might have. And good luck. Thanks.